How's it going, everybody? I've just been having so much fun with Dave the Diver that I figured it'd be nice to kind of put out my advice for the things I wish I knew when I started playing the game. So 100% there's going to be some spoilers ahead, so if you guys are not wanting to see some spoilers, might not want to continue on. They're not exactly game-breaking spoilers, but if you're the type of person that really cares about kind of going into something blind, definitely don't continue watching. So let's just get right into it. I think probably the most important thing out of all of this is that you can carry over your weight limit. You might notice whenever you go a little bit over that you'll have that little weight symbol above your head. It's going to make you move slower, and while this is a little bit impactful, it's not the end of the world. You're able to actually continue collecting until you see a little inventory sign above your head, and it'll be like an inventory with a line through it, which is letting you know that you can't carry any more at all, no matter what it is. If you're like me, you're probably going down and filling your bag every single time you go down there. So I always recommend that you just max it out. I've discovered that you can pretty much carry over 15 kilos over whatever your max limit is, and I feel like this is extremely important in the beginning of the game. And as long as you're properly utilizing those escape pods that are under the water to get you out, you are going to definitely have a lot more items by following this method. For my second bit of advice, it's just going to go in relation to kind of the order I think upgrading your equipment should go. Obviously, your storage container, that one was important to me. I just enjoyed getting as much stuff as I could. Definitely a hoarder and a collector in these types of games. However, once you hit around like 170 for your oxygen, you're pretty much very, very safe to do anything you want under the water. There is always going to be an oxygen container or a shell for you to get max oxygen from, and there's also a lot of those containers that contain those small little oxygen bottles that'll fill you 50% up. I felt like after I hit 170, I never ran into any issues when I was running out of oxygen. I would only focus on it a little bit more if you are concerned about getting in a lot of battles with those aggressive creatures, because when you're underwater, the oxygen is your HP, for lack of a better term. So as you get hit by aggressive creatures, you do lose oxygen. So obviously having a higher oxygen bar is going to definitely let you last longer in regards to those aggressive creatures, but 170 I think is a very, very nice place to be. The next big thing that I think is just extremely important, and something that I wish I noticed earlier on, and that is just literally pick up almost every single item you see under the water, especially the like junk looking items like the metal scraps, the ropes, and things of that nature, especially the fragments, because these are all going to come in handy later on in the game, whether it's going to be selling them for gold or bay, or upgrading your weapons. A lot of these things are used in upgrading your weapons, so it's definitely very important to pick all of these up. That kind of goes together with picking up every box ever. The weapon boxes are very important because as you progress in the game, the deeper you go, the better stuff you're going to find, as well as weapon types. So you want to be opening that weapon box because one, it's going to increase your harpoon damage, and two, you're going to probably find better guns than what you have equipped. On top of that, you will eventually be able to disassemble these weapons, and the higher level the weapon that you disassemble, the more fragments you get. Fragments are definitely the most used item when it comes to upgrading your weapons, so it's very important that you're grabbing all of those items from those boxes. Now, both those things kind of go together with this next tip, and it's mostly because you want to grab as much of everything that you see, because there's this job board down in the Sea People area where you're able to exchange items for missions, basically, and as you complete these missions, this is definitely the best way for you to accumulate Bay in a long term. Bay is the currency that you use under there, and this Bay is used for two really important stores, three really if you want to talk about the kelp store, but the dumpling store will give you fantastic buffs every single time you go underwater. You definitely want to eat one of those. It's going to help your damage out, it's going to help your harpoon damage out, it's going to make you move faster. There's just a lot of benefits, so you're always going to want to have a lot of Bay. Also, when it comes to the later levels, when it comes to the gun upgrades, you're going to have to buy a lot of items from the weapon shop that is underwater. So it's very important that you have a large amount of this Bay, because you're going to be buying those items. They're very pricey, and having picked up everything, you're probably going to go down there and be able to exchange like 10, 15 missions, and that's going to rack you up a lot of currency. So just definitely want to make sure that you're synergizing both those things, because if you want those higher level big damage weapons, you're definitely going to be using that currency a lot. The next thing kind of want to go over is just make sure that you're taking advantage of the systems that the games give you. And this is purely when it comes to the farm, the fish farm, and the seaweed farm. All of these are just going to be really nice passive ways for you to gain a lot of ingredients so you don't have to stress yourself out very much when you go underwater if you don't want to basically bring back a full inventory every single time. The farm ingredients are very important because a lot of the more complex dishes are going to be kind of part of that farm. So all of your vegetables are extremely important, as well as the eggs. The fish farm is just really nice because you won't really pay too much attention to it, but over time it's definitely a fantastic way to make sure you're able to enhance all of the dishes that you think are important. You'll constantly be selling a large amount of those fish as well, so it's a good way to get currency. And then the seaweed farm, same thing as the normal farm. There's just a lot of those ingredients that you're going to use in the more complex dishes that are important for both price as well as happiness. One of the most important things I think that I didn't really realize is when it comes to your restaurant, you're able to have staff in the waiting room. So these are staff that you're not currently using. These staff, you're able to actually dispatch them. And what this does is it makes them go out and look for ingredients. Now, these ingredients are the ones that you'd find underwater in those little crock pots. And so unless you're kind of going around and grabbing all of them, which I do definitely recommend, this dispatch lets you go and send them out to grab ingredients every single day. It's fantastic. There's no negatives to using it. And it's basically just a really good way to get those ingredients that, again, just like the farm, are used for those higher level dishes, as well as some of the events, basically. Which leads me into the events are definitely the easiest way for you to just rack up on money. I'll tie this into the fact that you want to save your boss dishes for the events that are related to that boss. So, for example, there's a couple bosses that are sharks, and there is an event that is specifically about sharks. So you want to make sure that you have those boss dishes for those events, because in these events, you're able to make significantly more money than you would normally. These people generally always get drinks. They always pay extra if you serve them the dish that is of the type they are looking for. So there's like a jellyfish event, there's a tuna event, there's a shark event, etc., etc. And you can use this to make a ton of money. So having those boss dishes are definitely extremely important when it comes to this event, because you're just going to get overall a much better return than if you were to use it on a normal night. In general, that's kind of everything I wanted to talk about. These are just things that I found definitely help you maximize your gains in regards to a game like this. I also just really enjoy it. It's always nice to see the numbers go up. It's always fun to catch as many things as possible, and it's just so addicting picking up everything in the world possible under the water. So if you guys have any tips yourself, definitely let me know down below. If you have any suggestions on things that you kind of want to know more about for the game, definitely let me know. And as always, I appreciate the support, and I hope to see you on the next one.